Today on CV Mike, we're talking real cultural strategy with Jessica Germain, VP of Marketing at MyCode. We get into why brands get culture wrong and how to fix it, how growth audiences are reshaping marketing, and the balance of leadership and parenthood. For real. Let's pass the mic. Hey everyone, welcome to ClearVoice Mike, Marketers and Conversation. I'm Taylor Moon here at ClearVoice, Director of Content, and today I'm passing the mic on over to Jessica Germain, and she is the VP of Marketing at MyCode. Let's see where the conversation takes us. Hey Jessica.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. How are you doing?
Doing great. How are you today?
I cannot complain. So it's a pleasure to have you. I know a little bit about MyCode, a little bit about your history, but I'd love if you can just kick us off and introduce yourself, a little
Yeah,
bit about you, where you're at now, and what you're doing at MyCode, and kind of what got you there, if you will.
absolutely. Yeah. So I'm the VP of Marketing at MyCode. And for those of you who aren't familiar, MyCode is a media company that helps brands connect to growth audiences. We do that through different culturally driven media, content, we have insights, and we really do a mixture of brand storytelling, strategic messaging, and go to market strategy on my side of the house. So I spend a lot of my days thinking about positioning and metrics and our different media brands and products, as all good marketers do, and then how that can resonate with different advertisers, agencies, and brands alike. What is our unique sauce as a company is that we appeal to many different audiences. So we kind of grew up in the Hispanic space, and then we had since continued on to recognizing and working with Black audiences, ANHPI, and then LGBTQ plus communities. As recently as this year, we also have expanded into looking at things like sports and music and entertainment, all which we consider pillars of culture. So that's kind of where we're at today.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I I've always found MyCode and it's like you referred to kind of secret sauce, very unique when it comes to a marketing, advertising, I guess even like agency perspective and how things are set up. Whereas, it's a little bit more, I wouldn't say like it's just more specific, right? It's not so
For
broad going, it's very direct and it's very human and especially interesting and I think very prominent in today's day and age, right? With everything going
Absolutely.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love all of that. And I know a little bit about your background too. Can you kind of tell me, I know you've had a bit of a journey, an interesting journey.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about where you've been and what brought you, and I believe back to my code at one point? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, I my journey starts on the East Coast of the United States. I worked as in product marketing. That's kind of how I came up in the industry. So, I worked for a company called Tech Target, and they do a lot of technology focused publications. And that's really where I started to dip my toe into the world of product marketing. From there, headed on over to LA. And my first job in media in LA was at a company called Demand Media. And they were kind of well known for sites like ehow.com, livestrong.com, some of those like kind of early .comers that did really well back in the day. And from there, honestly, I was pumping out RFPs for them. And it was a grind, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about what advertisers like to see, what they don't like to see, and learned a lot about the industry that way. From there, I came over to what was then called H Code, and it was a really fun time, honestly. It was a small company. We were in a WeWork back in the day.
I know
We
those.
always talk,
Yeah.
we talk about our WeWork days very fondly. The folks that I work with, we were all very close, literally sitting next to each other in the WeWork, and also, we hung out. It was a lot of fun, but you know, those WeWork days are something that I'll always remember, just because we were all building this company together,
Yeah.
from the ground up. And, you know, the CEO was just right across from me. And,
Yeah.
you know, we would figure out challenges. We would, you know, work on different things together. Advertisers would ask us questions, and we were trying to figure it all out. And so that was just a really, really fun time. And then from there, like I said, we expanded from H code to B code. B code was our offering to, or is our offering to look at Black audiences. And that's kind of, that began our expansion, I would say, into different audiences as we know them. So from there, we kind of figured out that we had like the secret sauce to get different advertisers involved. We had the expertise in house to really speak to what the audiences need and want to see. And we were able to translate that for advertisers. So we kind of replicated that magic across different, you know, racial and ethnic groups. And then our intelligence center is our ability to study different audiences, what motivates them, what's next, what's trending. And that really began a different path for the company. We were able to consult with people. We were able to really lean into, okay, what is it that I know about my audience? What is it that I'm missing? Can you validate? We were able to kind of look at campaigns and study them and see what was working, what wasn't working, and pivot. So, you know, we started to see our metrics and our benchmarks go way up. And that's why people wanted to continue to work with us. From there, I left the company for a little while, came back. We were My Code, one unified brand. And this year we relaunched that brand, which was a lot of fun to work on.
Oh, I bet.
So we went out, we did a bunch of studies. We wanted to learn about kind of what we were good at, what we needed to get better at. And we launched a unified brand that really kind of brought all of these different codes together, and positions us really well for where we feel the market is headed, which is growth audiences.
Yeah. I I love kind of how everything you kind of got the pieces of the puzzle, if you will, and
Yeah,
then put the puzzle together
right.
to my code. And I love that you were there like foundationally and then like that's a pretty cool thing to be a part of.
Absolutely.
I'm curious within that process, you know, it sounded like there was a lot of just learnings, a lot of were you speaking kind of looking at you know, unique groups of target audiences, talking to them as well, what that looked like? I'm curious of what that process kind of was.
Yeah, absolutely. So we again we utilized our intelligence center to really examine, you know, what was going on with these audiences, ask them questions, validate some of our hypotheses. We also really leaned on our publishers, and our publishers exist for the purpose of telling stories. They know the audiences inside and out, because their entire purpose and reason for being is to tell stories. And so they're informed, they hear about things first, and they kind of know what's trending and where things are headed. So we just kind of got really smart about how we wanted to utilize our relationships with publishers, the owned and operated properties that we have, and, you know, continuing to build together.
Absolutely. We do a little bit of a, hopefully it's not crazy, but an intake form, you know, before we chat. And one thing you would really, excuse me, called out in it was kind of redefining culture as like a strategy and not a trend or something that's like momentary, right? It's cohesive. It's there constantly, and it's should be a part of your strategy. I would love to pick your brain a little bit about like what does culturally intelligent storytelling mean in
Yeah.
practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I think about cultural intelligence, one of the things that really comes to mind is really starting and rooting yourself in truth and in data, right? And
Mm.
so one of the things that we always seek to do is just figure out what is it that's making people tick when it comes to whatever topic that we're
Pain
talking
points,
about.
challenges, what is it? Yeah.
Exactly. And then from there, you know, there's a lot. And so when we're working with an advertiser, it's a little bit of a yin and a yang, and we want to understand what is that insight, but then what is everyone talking about? How can we meet the moment? Because things change so quickly in today's day and age, right? And so we just want to make sure that we have the right folks working on things that are cultural experts and can really help understand how to enhance concepts and enhance these different insights that we get. And from there, it's about placing things in the right spot, so that the right people can see it. So we really want to make sure that we're utilizing our network of publishers and our owned and operated to get the messages to the people who actually need to see them. That's the most important part, I would say.
Distributing it where it needs to be, um,
Exactly.
not where you think, but where it really will resonate with the audience at hand, culturally, all of the above. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm I'm curious if you kind of see where brands get it wrong, where they, when they approach like cultural as a trend as opposed to, I guess, a foundation.
I would say the thing that I see the most that brands are getting wrong is just trying to blanket everyone. I've seen campaigns where, they've cast different types of people doing things that just don't feel authentic or relatable. And so, what I would challenge brands to really think about is, are you having the right people in the rooms creating the concepts from the get go? Or are you just kind of adding people at the very end of the campaign or the concepting? So that's kind of one of the misconceptions or challenges that I see brands making. I will say though that in the past 5 years specifically, things have gotten phenomenally better
Yeah.
when it comes to this. I've seen so many, funny, warm, just different types of things that you're like, oh, like I actually would share. They're trying to sell me something, and I still want to share this with people, and I still want to talk about this to my friends. So there's definitely a lot more of that, and I think that will only continue.
Mm.
Any sort of organic word of mouth always goes a long way, and so I'm hoping that when we see the return, when brands start to see the returns on these types of campaigns, they just want to invest more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. I feel like there are more, and you can't really plan for like the viral s,
Right.
if
Right.
you will. There are probably several viral moments to stay tuned to, but then there are other moments that are just more have to be a part of your strategy as opposed to waiting for something like that to happen, right? And
Exactly.
and that's where you guys tend to come in a bit more, right?
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's always a level of uncertainty when it comes to any of these things. We can't predict what's next, but we do have a really good understanding of what's coming up and what's cool. We lean, like I said, on our editorial brands to help us with that. Some of them are really in tune with the music scene. Some of them are really in tune with the sports scene. Combinations of all of those things. Beauty is a big pillar for us as well, and so just kind of staying on top of things, having people in the know, as well as having really rich data. I think the combination really helps mitigate some of the risks around that.
Yeah, you kind of brought something up, and I'd love to get your perspective on it. But that of like editorial, right? So really having content and people that are essentially like rooted, they're in the know, but they're experts, right?
All right.
They they're essentially a part of the audience at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
How cultural, but just in general, how essential do you view content to a marketing, campaign aspect? Kind of curious of your mindset and perspective.
Yeah, I think the content is really everything. It really brings to life the different messages that we're trying to get out. It is the microphone of the community, right? And so it gives people something to react to,
Yeah.
good or bad. And so as long as it's getting people talking, we love to see it. So yeah, I think the content at the end of the day is really everything.
And I'm curious that holistically, my code is very rooted in something that's very connected, very human. What is the kind of perspective, if you will, now with a lot of AI out there?
Hmm.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of fear. There's a lot of things floating around. I mean, I have my own 2 cents on everything, but I'm kind of curious of where you sit within everything that's kind of circulating, if you will, as of right now, because there's a lot, and I don't see it going away.
Yeah.
It's not going to quiet anytime soon. So I kind of like to hear what you're thinking with everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think AI really changed the way that we operate as a business. It helps us with speed for
Mhm.
sure. It helps us with scale. It helps us with creative direction sometimes. But I really think that what it comes down to is that when you need the structure of AI, it can give that to you. It can give you early content drafting. It can give you pattern recognition. But what it can't do is cultural storytelling. It can't add a human perspective. And that's really everything, right?
Mhm.
I think it's a really great tool to help get started. And I think that will only increase. But, I think what the real value is in a company like ours is nuanced insight and real authentic storytelling.
Yeah. And if you compare those together, perfect,
Perfect.
right?
Exactly. And that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's a lot of different perspectives on it, but I definitely feel like if utilized correctly and as a tool, first and foremost, very much that, right? But at the end of the day, especially in somewhere like my code where you're working, with an editorial team that's deeply rooted in advertising, at the end of the day, it's like if you lean too heavily on AI, then it would be null and void, right? It wouldn't connect. It wouldn't speak to the target audience and growth audiences, right? Like it just you could try, but it
Right.
probably wouldn't
Right.
resonate.
I also feel like at the end of the day, everyone would end up saying the same thing. And so that differentiation, I think, is really what humans can provide and what culture can provide.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm I'm kind of curious of like, say, I'm getting a little deep rooted, if you will, within content a little bit more specifically, but
Mhm.
for those that are like content marketers or perhaps freelancers or fractional folks that are within content specifically, how can they spot when a campaign, a brief is essentially surface level versus
Mhm.
culturally fluent?
I don't think it's obvious. I don't think the answer is obvious. I think that it takes an understanding on the marketer's behalf of knowing what's coming up, where it fits into their brand story. And I also think that it's going to get harder and harder to do as this AI becomes more and more sophisticated. And so I've said this many, many times. Part of marketing comes down to taste and and kind of knowing what you like and knowing what you don't like, in it also informed by strategy and insights and all of that. And so I think when it comes to kind of seeing through the clutter, when it comes to I mean, the more you use it, the more you can see when other people are using it too.
Yeah,
So, I think that just informing yourself, not being afraid to kind of dig in with it, but then also, you kind of know where you're headed and what you would like to see for your brand, and really sticking yourself up for that.
for sure. And you brought this up as well, and I'd like to dig a little deeper of what does growth audience mean?
Absolutely. So the way we define growth audiences at My Code are any of the audiences in the United States that are growing. And traditionally, that would be what we label as Hispanic, Black, LGBTQ plus, and HPI. When you look at Gen Z, 50% of them come from those buckets. And so as the population gets a little bit older, new people are coming in, they are more and more diverse, and those are the audiences that we're going after. That Gen Z bucket we talk about a lot at My Code because it's so important for us. It's important for us because they hit on everything that we've been building over the last 10 years. They care about inclusivity, they care about authenticity, they care about all of the things that we've always stood for. And so when we're talking about growth audiences, we're really talking about all of that.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I'm gonna get a little personal here. Apologies, but for me, I find it so interesting. I'm obviously a white female, but my husband is from South America, Bolivia. A lot of people don't know where that is, but it's in South America. It is
Yep.
not Bulgaria, everyone. That's usually the switch. But we we are a Latino household at the end of the day.
Hmm.
We have a Latina daughter. So it's a very unique the way you're saying that, and it's oh my gosh, other generations, Gen Alpha, Beta, scary to think about, but it's going to only increase, in my opinion. And I think also other cultures are becoming more ingrained and meshed with one another, right? Having a
Absolutely.
multicultural household too. So that's gonna also increase. I Is that something that y'all are already like ingrained with? What does that look like? I'm very curious.
We're all over it. I mean, we're we're really trying to place ourselves right now as a force to have to work with when you want to reach those Gen Z audiences. And then
Yeah.
eventually, like you said, the Gen Alpha and whatever generation is after them.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that's exactly what we strive to do. Like I said, culture doesn't just come from your ethnic or racial background. Culture can come from the foods you like, the music you listen to, the places you like to visit, your interests, your hobbies, any of your affinities. And so, usually, when we look at what makes up a person, it's a combination of all those things.
Mm,
And we talk a lot about, when you mentioned that you're a mom. I'm a mom as well. I'm sure we could go on an entire tangent just about
probably.
our kids. But there's a culture to that, right? And so I think that's really what we're trying to hit off on as a company, is like really getting to those passion points that people have, the things that they like to talk about when they describe themselves. That's really what we're trying to hit.
I feel like y'all could build some amazing like personality maps. Like it,
Yes.
right? Like I just everyone wants a Myers-Briggs. Like
Yes.
it's that to some extent. It's so
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. I could just be ingrained with those types of like analysis or just questions all day.
Yep.
Like who doesn't enjoy that? I mean, to be realistic, everyone's intrigued by like what you find out about yourself or those around you, things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's really what is so fascinating about working here as an employee, which I love, but also about the studies that we put out. We're constantly looking to map, where people are at when it comes to politics, when it comes to their health, when it comes to their purchasing decisions, all of that. We're looking to keep a pulse on what's happening so that we're able to be better informed when it comes to the conversations that we're having.
I love that. And it's not just obviously insightful for you and those that you work with. It's insightful for a lot of people. What I'm curious, you just saying like health and is there a recent study that y'all have done that really kind of sticks out as of late?
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting ready to publish our entertainment study, which will be a lot of fun. It's looking at the different theatrical, releases that happen and how people behave around that. Are people heading back to the box office? Are they not? We're going to be doing something very similar around streaming habits. Are people bundling their streaming? Are they getting rid of them? Are they adding more? What is everyone doing? Why are there ads on HBO Max? I don't know, but we're going to be looking at all of it. So it's yeah, we that one's coming up very soon. The entertainment study, that'll be a lot of fun. With the elections, we're always looking at politics and all of that. So that's been an ongoing effort for the company, and kudos to the team who works on that, because that is a lot of work. But our job is to really keep pulse on what people are saying, and making sure that that information is making it to the people who need to hear it.
Wow. I feel like there could be so many different studies done and so much very unique and useful data. And
Absolutely.
I I saw one. It was probably it was post COVID for sure. I think you can imagine where this is going, but it was very much on mental health and
Yes.
the impacts of just generations, but then breaking it down by how you identify in sex and what that means, and
Hmm.
just everyone rediscovering or first time discovering mental health, all of it. So
Right.
it's funny because a lot of people are like, oh, interesting, but how that impacts the way you speak to someone, market, right? That's valuable information. And that's also, it resonates to you at the end of the day as likely the person that's putting that campaign together. And I think that's kind of in a different light, kind of paint the picture of what y'all are doing at My Code, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I I love it. Like it's a very unique and different aspect to, going into Google Analytics and kind of saying, or like we have a target audience, this is that, but nothing's set in stone. You're right. You're really going and defining and figuring out things on a reoccurring basis, right? Where
Right.
several people do obviously do rebrands, they analyze constantly, but generally, you know, they help define that, right? From the get go, from the
Absolutely.
ground up of what
Mhm.
they wanted as opposed to discovering what people wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's where we can really come in. We can meet brands where they are. We can help, if they have a really defined target of who they want to hit off on, we can work with that. But if they're looking for, what am I their blind spots? What am I missing? What am I not seeing? What do I need to do as a brand to grow? That's really the value that we're able to bring is, you
Yeah.
know, it's not just, we say this all the time internally, but it's not just a Hispanic Heritage Month or a Black History Month campaign once a year.
No.
It's an always on. It's, having a dialogue and a conversation and a point of view when it comes to talking to the audiences that we represent.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. And the audiences are always evolving. Expectations shift, uh, representation shifts, um, depending on how things are going. But I'm also curious because the way you teed it up there is like, where are my blind spots? And a lot of people, it very much might be marketing, but a lot of people kind of sometimes forget that marketing is very closely tied to product, very
Right.
closely tied to sales.
Right.
It's a very collaborative structure at the end of the day, or though it should be. Ideally, I'm curious of like in some of helping define or shine light on those blind spots, are y'all able to kind of help identify, you know, some of those gaps or ideas that could be inserted that might not fall into the stereotypical, marketing funnel, but maybe it's actually like it's frontward facing, it's from a sales perspective, or more forward thinking, or maybe it's actually like product. Do you kind of see that happening often?
Yeah, yeah, we're talking about these things all the time. We tend to be a little bit consultative when it comes to some of our findings. Our goal is to be unbiased, of course, when we're conducting our studies. And so a lot of what we're doing is really looking at what the audience is saying, what they need, what they want, and without giving that spin. And then, of course, as we're working with different folks on different teams, we can tailor our conversation to really hit off on, this is maybe what you're not thinking about, or this is a different approach to the idea, or this is another way to kind of go about solving the problem that you're trying to hit off on.
I love that. And we've talked a lot about My Code and what y'all do because it's just awesome and it's very unique as opposed to a lot of people's, stereotypical setups in a in-house brand or working, freelance or fractionally on their own, or even at an agency. If you care to call My Code an agency, it's a very different structure or just
Yeah,
way of looking at things holistically. So hence why we talked a lot about it. But I'd love to talk a bit more about you as well and kind of where your passions are and everything like that. I'm sure it's very integrated, obviously,
for
within marketing.
sure.
But I noted that you kind of called out your commitment of to women in leadership and women in marketing. I'd love if you can talk a little bit more kind of about that, what that means to you. And yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I'm a mom. I have two young kids, ages 3 and 6, who are very obviously dear to my heart, and a puppy. So
That one's
they keep me very busy. But I think, and you can probably relate to this too. It's a balancing act always. There's just always something going on, and so after I became a mom, everything changed for the better. It's been really interesting to see how it is to work as a woman, and I think that really is to work as a mom is just one of the hardest things I think that anyone will ever do. And so that's really what it is for me. My whole motto is keep going. No, don't stop. You can do it. Even on your hardest days, you can get through it. And that really is like the heart of why I believe in women in leadership. And, I think that we're really good at managing multiple tasks. I think that we're able to kind of cut to the chase sometimes when we need to, and really, work through a lot of the clutter that happens in the workplace sometimes.
absolutely. I empathize. I have a 3-year-old, and
Yes.
I feel like if you could negotiate with a toddler,
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people might think otherwise, but I never thought it would give me a different perspective and skill set in my
Hmm.
professional career. A
Absolutely.
lot of more patience as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. It, for fathers as well, it just
Yes.
is different, obviously. But when you become a parent, it changes who you are, and holistically, and how you approach things and your kind of reasonings for everything, which is yet again a different perspective that I think is very valuable to have at the table, not just in general, but like you said, from a leadership perspective as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Couldn't agree more.
And I think, your point of this balancing act, it's hard too. Like, I think a lot of people, they won't understand until they encounter it, right? And
Absolutely.
everyone in their own home dynamics has different things, whether they what amount of help they do or not. You know, it's
Hmm.
still not easy because
Right.
I find myself, I don't know about you, but it's very hard to, especially perhaps even working from home more so, to fully turn off. I don't know that I
Right.
can fully turn off. It's very difficult, but to dial it down or
Yep.
like put it on mute, right?
Hmm.
When you're done working and you're mom. And then when you know, you're mom and you're not working. And but it just is like, then you go to work.
Right.
You try to separate it, but it's almost more of like a rhythm.
Exactly. I know.
Try to
It's
dance.
trying to stay fully present in this conversation and, and everything else, that the Slack messages that I'm getting right now that I'm
Oh gosh.
ignoring.
Mine's
And then everything else that happens. No, it's so true. I mean, yeah, it's every day is different, I will
oh
say,
yeah, absolutely.
for better or for worse.
Well, I'm curious of where, if you want to kind of plug away, if you will, also, of
Mhm.
where people might be able to find you, follow you, connect with you, but also for my code, for people kind of interested in what y'all do, what you're doing, and why you're doing it, where they might be able to connect with y'all on that.
Absolutely. So to find me, the best place would be on my LinkedIn. My name is Jessica Germain. And then for my code, I would say definitely check out our website. We update it pretty regularly. It's mycodemedia.com. On there, we talked a lot about our studies on here. You can find them. They're all free, downloadable. If you want to take a look, there's a lot of different areas that we dig into and a lot of really great information. We'd love to connect with you if you're listening, and learn more about you.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I'm bringing it back, if you will, but you mentioning leaning more heavily into kind of the entertainment and space and everything like that. Is that something that is pre-existing or will be kind of
Yeah,
thing, or what is that
yeah,
like?
it's something that we've always done. So, some of our key verticals, we do studies around auto, finance, entertainment, as I mentioned. We look at all of these different types of verticals, retail, QSR, I mean, everything, you name it. And we conduct studies kind of looking at what's the Black, Hispanic, ANHBI, and LGBTQ perspective on these different verticals. Are people shopping differently? Do they look at things differently? Are they worried about something maybe that we're not aware of or privy to at this time? And so we like to find those differences and really call them out.
Yeah,
So that's really the purpose of those studies.
I love it. It's
Yeah.
unique, and like you're saying, it stretches across different identifications, if you will, from a cultural perspective. So that's
Yes.
awesome. I
Yeah.
love that. Well, Jessica, I appreciate it. It was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can't wait for people to listen and tune in. So
Yes, and good luck to you and your family. So happy for you.
thank you. I appreciate it. Big thanks to Jessica for sharing her insights today. The stuff they're doing at MyCode is breaking down barriers and setting the bar for future generations. And if you're looking to scale your content with clarity or just want more conversations like this, check us out at clearvoice.com.